Hello class, today Ahmed, Vincent and me, Philip, are going to talk to you about oppression, especially about racism around the world.
First things first, what is racism? You probably all know what it is, but I'm going to clarify it for you. Racism is a way to judge other humans based on their physical appearance and from where they come. Those two aspects are considered like someone's race. For example, if a black man lives in Russia, he is going to be considered as another race from Russians. And if a woman from USA goes in Norway, she's going to be considered as another race. This way to judge is used by using prejudices, stereotypes, and discrimination. A lot of people think that racism is automatically bad for the one judged, but it is false. Your way to judge and your prejudices can be positive for the one judged. For example, a black woman could be hired more easily than a white woman for a competitive race without showing any skills. This situation is racist for the white woman, of course, but for the black woman too, because she's judged just because of her skin color. But it's still positive for the black woman. But racism is always unfair for someone, and this is one of the reasons why it is an oppression.
Now that Philip told you what the racist is, I'm gonna show you why it is considered as an oppression, as he said. First of all, you have to know that an oppression is a mix of bad comments and bad treatment towards a specific social group. In the case of racism, we talk about all the biases and the feeling of superiority that someone can have towards another race. This feeling of superiority is
acquired
at an early age and can also be related to an idea to live without differences. For an example, Mr. and Miss
Zulu Sherlocker and Evolava Vabum Boomeroni
teach their child that other race and different cultures are inferior to white Americans. It's gonna take a lot of time for the child to understand and accept differences. In our opinion, there should be less racism and discrimination toward other race. People should learn to accept differences and try to forget their biases and prejudice. Also learn more about other cultures by reading books or by traveling to those countries. Parents have also an important role to play in the education of their child, to teach them that there are various race and skin colors, and to send them to a multi-ethnic school will help them to accept others. For us, this is the problem. Parents send their child to school where there is only one social group, making their child close to the world.
Historically, one of the most affected race by racism is the black people from Africa. Between the 15th and the 19th century occurred an event which marked the history of humanity, the slavery. At that time, Europeans brought between 10 and 12 million African slaves to America by boat. This event marked the course of history on the American continent. And now I'm gonna talk about racism against black in United States. The slaves are used as domestic and agricultural sector, particularly in the plantation of tobacco and cotton. What is a slave? A slave is a person deprived of freedom and submitted to the tyrannical authority of a person or of a state. He has to do forced labor. He may face torture, violence, and sexual abuse. The slaves were tortured, beat, and killed for the fun of the white people. Today, the position of black people has changed. For example, Barack Obama, first black president of the history of United States. But even today, there is unfair situation for black people. For example, what happened in Ferguson City. Finally, I will present you some great personalities who issued the black community of racism. The first person is Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. He was one of the historic leaders of the struggle against the institutional political system of racial segregation before becoming president of South Africa from 1994 to 1999. He fought against racism blacks in South Africa and he managed to deliver the black community in South Africa. The second person is Rosa Louise Macaulay Parks. Rosa Parks fought against racial segregation with Martin Luther King to deliver the black community of racism in United States. She became famous by refusing to give up her seat to a white passenger on the bus. Finally, the third person is Martin Luther King. He is an African American Baptist minister, no violent activity for black civil rights in the United States, for peace and against poverty. He organizes and directs actions such as the boycott of Montgomery buses to defend the right to vote, segregation and employment of ethnic minorities.
Racism has been unfair for a lot of races. But now, I'm going to talk about racism against Arab people. First, you need to know that an Arab and a Muslim are not the same thing. You can't be racist towards a Muslim because it's not a race, it's a religion. There is discrimination towards Muslims because of the prejudices we all got from Islamic extremism. Those people do terrorism, so our mind relate Muslim people to terrorism. In addition, Arabs physically look like Muslims. But in the society, Arab people are related to terrorism. But what are the effects of those prejudices? Well, there are a few. For example, Arabs are more likely to get arrested by police than another race. They are sometimes not allowed to enter monuments. Some men, high-placed politically, want the Arabs to leave their country. Trump, for example. This hell for Arab people really started after the September 11 attacks, because the terrorists identified themselves as Islamic terrorists. Other events like that happened recently at Paris and at Brussels. The racism against Arabs is actually in our society. Last year, a young boy called Ahmed Mohammed became famous because of the racism against Arabs. Ahmed, a 14 years old boy, brought to his school a clock he made by himself. He showed it to his teacher. The teacher, knowing Ahmed was Arab, heard the sound of the clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock, and panicked immediately. She called the police and told them that there was a bomb in the school. The police arrested Ahmed and then realized that the bomb was in reality a clock. This is a great example of how racism can lead to something useless while hurting someone.
Here are 5 facts about racism. Fact 1. Studies show that police are more likely to pull over and frisk blacks or Latinos than whites. Fact 2. After being arrested, African Americans are 33% more likely than white to be detained while facing a felony trial in New York. Fact 3. Race is only skin deep. There is no scientific evidence that there are genetically different human race. Fact 4. White supremacy is the belief or promotion of the belief that white people are superior to people of other racial backgrounds and that therefore whites should politically, economically, and socially dominate non-whites. Fact 5. In Rwanda, almost 1 million people were killed in 1994. The only reason was they were different.
In conclusion, I think we all agree on the fact that racism is bad. But
that's not enough. To make the racism as smaller as we can, I think we just have to accept differences, forget our stereotypes, and try to convince other people to do those things, like we just did by sharing this video on YouTube. Thanks for watching!